So we're going to start with District 1, and our first speaker on District 1 will be Randy Novak. District 2, I'm sorry.
Good evening, my name's Randy Novak. I've been married to my wife, to give you a little introduction, been married to my wife for 39 plus years. Been with the Michigan City Fire Department for 32 years, 20 years as a realtor here in LaPorte County and in Michigan. Currently president of the LaPorte County Council. I've been actively involved in serving our community for in excess of 3 decades. I'm committed to this community. I've been here since childhood, and I absolutely enjoy helping the community and doing things. Obviously, with my role as the fire chief currently, I handle multi-million-dollar budgets, capital expenditures, and that's what I believe gives me the experience. So thank you.
Thank you, Randy. And I've been asked to announce the party affiliation of each of the candidates, so I'll be doing that going forward. And Randy is a Democrat candidate for County Council District 2. The Republican candidate for County Council District 2 is Jim Rice. Jim?
Okay, thank you, Lee. I am a long-term resident of LaPorte County. I was born and raised in Michigan City, went to high school in Michigan City, then attended college, came back, and taught for the Michigan City schools for 6 years, and then later became an administrator in Michigan City as an assistant principal. Later, I left Michigan City to complete my doctorate in education, and went on to become an administrator and a superintendent in various communities throughout mostly northern Indiana, and also 5 years as a superintendent in Kingman, Arizona. Because of family concerns, I came back to LaPorte County, came back and resided in LaPorte, Indiana this time instead of Michigan City, and became a superintendent at River Forest Community Schools. I retired there in 2014. Altogether, I spent about 48 years in public education and working with the public on various issues regarding budget, programs, and so forth. I think that highly qualifies me for this position.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Now let's turn to our candidates for County Council District 4. The Democrat candidate for County Council District 4 is Steve Hollifield. Steve?
Good evening, and thank you all for coming and for putting this forum on. I'm a farmer. I live in Lincoln Township near Mill Creek. I grow mostly hay. I've lived in LaPorte County since 1974. In '94, I purchased the farm from my parents, and I run it as a business. And I have 3 children, daughter Samantha, Allison, and son Travis. I feel that I bring the expertise of business on how to spend money, do budgets. I served on the Fish Lake Conserving District Board for the first 6 years of its existence. As a finance officer, I prepared budgets there. I served on the Lincoln Township Advisory Board, helping the trustee go through budgets and keeping everything in check there from year to year. And the 4 years we were there was during some times that, as you remember, there was a tax issue in LaPorte County. And I feel that I can work across party lines because I really think that the parties are causing problems with us all right now anyway. And thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Now the Republican candidate for County Council District 4, Michael Rosenbaum.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Morris. I appreciate you being here as leading this discussion. Thank you to all the people in the audience and those who will be listening to this over and over again, as it was said earlier. I wanted to tell you the reason for me running, and it was a last-minute decision. And I had to take on an incumbent to do this. And so that's kind of hard for me to want to take out a neighbor as well. And I felt that I was much more qualified. As a family man, I'm married. I've known my wife for 42 years. I have 2 sons, both adults. I'm a CPA, Certified Public Accountant. Some people use other words for those. But anyway, what does that mean? What do I do? I've been involved for over 30 years of working with clients or being in private industry. So we talked about budgets. It's the difference between working with a $20,000 budget and a $400 million budget. No, we're not a $400 million county, but we're certainly a $43 million county plus. So the other part is I'm dedicated, I'm involved in the community. I've been involved with Boy Scouts, involved with baseball, and I like to listen before speaking. A lot of times I want to say something and address some issues, but I just want to listen and get it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Let's begin with some questions that have been submitted, and we'll start with Jim Rice. Jim, if you had to identify what you believe the most important issue facing LaPorte County, what would it be, and what will you do if you're elected to address that issue?
Well, first of all, being a LaPorte County Councilman, the most important obligation is to represent the people properly. And as serving as a fiscal board, the county council, I think the most important thing is being a good steward of the county budget. Now, one of the things that I find absolutely necessary and essential is to be a good planner. I've been that and had to be that when I was a superintendent of schools. That's something I find completely lacking in the council at the present time. It seems like there's just only short range, very short range planning, and a lot of things go airy on that kind of process. If you have a short range and a long range plan, you involve all the players in the game, then you solicit information that you need to build an appropriate budget that lasts not only for 1 year, but plans for throughout the years in the future. A good example of I'll have to stop there.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, Randy, same question. If you had to identify that what you believe to be the most important issue facing LaPorte County, what would it be, and what will you do if you are reelected to address that issue?
Well, being on the county council and being the president of the county council, fiscal responsibility is where it's at, and it's a matter of moving LaPorte County forward while being fiscally responsible. We can't just sit on the tax dollars and say, hey, we got a lot of money in the bank. We have to keep, there's a lot of things that have to be done. I disagree with my opponent that we don't have a strategic plan. Had he been to more meetings than just a few this last year because he decided to run, then maybe he would understand that there is a strategic plan and there are things in place. We've done studies on the buildings. We've worked with our building maintenance department. We're working on things. We have a plan to revise the Michigan City Courthouse, as well as next issue would be the county courthouse over in LaPorte County. So we're constantly working on things, whether it's with IT, computers, everything. We're trying to get a strategic plan on everything and have a plan in place. And we've done a very good job with the taxpayer dollars and being very fiscally responsible with all the taxpayers' dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Hey, Steve, that same question. What do you think that biggest issue is facing LaPorte County? What would you do to address it?
Spending the taxpayers' money wisely and with a plan looking to the future. We need to, it's not our money. It belongs to the taxpayers. They entrust it with us every year. I'm a firm believer that if we can shrink the government through the use of technology, make it smaller, it becomes more fiscally responsible because you're not spending as much money on it. If you have less government, lower taxes, less regulations, that, I feel, will also help attract development to bring into the county.
Thank you, Steve. And Michael, same question.
I think we're all going to harp on what the board of the council is all about, and that is the fiscal responsibility. I have some agreement and disagreement with others. I think sometimes what happens is we don't always see what the long-term range is, even when we watch, and even though we can't be there and we do watch. I've sat there for the budget hearings on one day, listened another day, and then all of a sudden there's still other things that come out, and it's partially because of the workings, the inner workings. So you have to learn about the inner workings of how things come about. I do see that one of the things that I would like to do and like to make a change, which I haven't heard from anybody else, is I do want to see 4-year plans from every department. Now maybe that's going on, but I'm not aware of it. And so therefore I would like to be more open, make sure the communication is open so that everybody sees that. So that's one of the big tasks. So as a planner as well, that's what I'd like to do, make sure people know what's going on. And right now, there's some things we can be held accountable for that's positive, and some things that may not be. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next question, and we're going to come back, starting with Michael, to this direction. Michael, if you're elected, what will you do to receive input from voters in LaPorte County and to communicate with those voters?
Well, currently, the process that I'm understanding is that there is an email, an official email that everybody can contact. I'm also around the town. I would also be still involved, going to different events, being involved with the community, have an open door policy. I'm a listener first. I am the middle of the pack of a 7-sibling family. I'm not always the first one heard. Maybe the last, but not the first one. And so therefore, I've had to learn to listen and then quietly take proper action or take the right action by learning and listening to everybody. So that's how I think I would respond.
Steve, how would you go about getting input from voters in LaPorte County, and how would you communicate with voters if you're elected?
I would feel that we can give out our cell phones, email addresses. Yes, there is a communication with the county website, but recently I've been trying to get it, and I've heard this from other people, there's a problem with it. It's not getting through to the not the candidates, but the members that need to hear it. Part of my strategic plan for the use of this campaign was to use Facebook a lot. I think a lot of younger people are into that, using that. Technology is something that's coming about. We need to use it more often because the younger generation focuses on that constantly. And like it or not, the younger generation is coming up and they are starting to vote and they are wanting things done their way, and we have to learn to adapt with that technology and use it also. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And Randy, if you are reelected, how will you go about receiving input from the voters and communicating with them?
You know, I'm excuse me, very active throughout the county, whether it's a member of Farm Bureau, attend the meetings. I make it a point to go throughout the entire county. But just because I'm elected from District 2, I represent all the taxpayers, and I make it a point to go out and listen to them and talk to them and active. And I'm not the kind of council person that, hey, that's not in my district, that doesn't have anything to affect me. I represent everybody in the county. I go out, I listen to them. My phone number's out there. I've been on the fire department for 32 years. I've been in real estate for 20 years. If you don't know how to get my number's out there everywhere. So I welcome, as my wife knows, I'm receiving phone calls constantly, emails. If you can't get a hold of me, there's a problem, because I'm there, I'm available, and I listen to all the taxpayers. Anybody that has a concern, I'll do it. I was on a phone conversation with a lady yesterday helping her with her veterans. So I'm available. Thank you.
And Jim, last but not least, how will you go about receiving input from the voters if you're elected, and how will you communicate with them?
Again, Leigh, I think it's important to show your face out in the public wherever you can and take every opportunity to do that. Let them know that you're a councilman. Some people don't even know what you represent or that you sit on the council. Listen to their views, get their input, respond to them. That's the most important thing to do. And in fact, I have been sitting in the council meetings and realized that very few people come up to public comments, because it's only a short period of time that you're allowed to speak. I've been thinking that it would be an excellent idea if twice a year that we had a meeting with the county council just for a public forum, just for people to address their needs to the council members. Let them speak, let us hear them and hear their viewpoints. That's the best way, is the one-on-one contact with the voters of LaPorte County.
Thank you, Jim. Well, we have questions from the audience. First question, if elected, will you support expansion of services provided by EMS? And what services do you feel need to be expanded with EMS, emergency medical services? Jim, thoughts on that, please?
Well, some of you might realize that I wrote an article in the paper about the lack of concern that was shown by and lack of planning and foresight by the council this year in addressing that very issue. I talked to the director of EMS, and he's indicated to me that the numbers of the client calls have increased over a 9-year period, particularly over the last 4 years, and it was addressed to the council. The council, when the director said that we probably need to add another 6 members, EMS program, and another ambulance, the county council's reaction was, we don't have that planned. There's no money in the budget for that. That shows, to me, a lack of planning. Certainly I support that. So that's one of my issues.
Randy, your thoughts about expansion of EMS services, and what are the services that you might think need to be expanded?
Well, I'll clear the air on Mr. Rice's comments. The EMS, their number of calls have been up. If you've been active in the county, you'd know that all emergency services calls are up. Last year, the EMS came to the council and said, hey, we need to start looking at this next year. They came to us, we bought a new ambulance earlier in the year. They came to us and said, hey, we need to look at getting 6 additional personnel. You cannot just go out, if we could have gone out and hired 6 additional personnel and pay for it out of Riverboat, which is absolutely ludicrous. You need to put the people in the budget, which is exactly what we're doing, and we did at this last meeting. We got the 6 people in there, 3 additional people for the sheriff's department. So it's imperative that you make this thing work. There's been a plan all along. You can't just show up, as Mike Rosenblum said, you can't show up and just not know what the plan is and figure out what's going on. But we have a plan. We're very committed to the EMS. We bought them everything they needed. Defibrillators, if you talk to EMS, we even give them a pay raise to retain their job. So we're very committed to all the emergency services in the county.
Okay, thank you, Randy. And Steve, your thoughts about expansion of EMS services, and what do you think might need to be expanded?
The EMS is one of the top 3 services that the county offers for its citizens and taxpayers. It's very important, and they recently had a donation from a wonderful taxpayer that gave us a new ambulance. I feel that we do need to look at expanding this because the northeastern part of the county, there is complaints that there is slow response time because it is the furthest part away. Hiring 6 additional staff members, that does need to be worked into the budget. But I think also in the long term, we need to look at other staffing, that if someone's retiring from another office and we have the use of technology, that we do no longer need to have as many people in every one of these offices. So through the act of attrition, in order to help pay for those 6 additional people, to keep the taxpayers' total tax bill down, because it's not just tax rate, it's the total dollar you pay every March or May and November. So you need to look at that long term also. Through the use of attrition, if someone retires, get fired, or quit, you may not have to replace every one of those offices. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And Michael, your thoughts on the expansion of EMS and what might need to be expanded?
Many thoughts.
All right, many thoughts. First of all, the budget for personnel hasn't been finalized yet. It's been discussed, and as Mr. Novak has mentioned, those numbers are currently being discussed, and apparently we just have to wait for that to be finalized and voted upon. I do want to say thank you to the person who wants to remain anonymous for a wonderful donation of a new ambulance. There was approximately $196,000 for the cost of the ambulance, but it doesn't stop there. The council still has to find additional funds because it has to be outfitted. So the outfitting of an ambulance, because the other ambulance that was purchased earlier in the year to be outfitted was about $235,000, $237,000. So there's still more to come. The other most important thing I want to add is I'd like to see Rolling Prairie get the extra ambulance so it's closer for the services. And then we also need to work with St. Joe County to save money on Hudson Lake on what their taxes might be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, we have a new question now, and we'll start with you, Mike, and come back this way if we may. How important is the LaPorte County website, and what would you do to improve it?
That's a loaded question. The website, I mean, we have some good people who are really trying to turn it around, and as the current council will even share, I believe that they will share, is that it's not where we want it to be. We want it to be a lot easier, more friendly to use. We want to make it where more information can be received or found easily, better linkage, and very easy communication. We're not yet at that point. It has to be redesigned. There was some conversation. They brought someone in, and there was conversation. And for now, it has been tabled because the design, I don't know if I was comfortable with it yet either. And so that has to also be put into a budget and in a process. So it's not just quickly easy, but it is all about communication. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Steve, what are your thoughts about the county website, and what would you like to see improved?
Nowadays, everyone looks to websites for the go anywhere. See what's happening with Porte County, how to contact our government, who actually is their representatives in the government. I was at a council meeting earlier this year and a commissioners meeting where a presentation was given by Mrs. Hale. She's the IT director. She brought a company in from Kansas, I believe it was, and they were wanting to spend $76,000 to upgrade that, plus a maintenance fee every year for a 4-year deal. A table, as it was, Mr. Rosenbaum said, it was tabled by the council and the commissioners both. That's an awful lot of money, on top of the fact that we have a full-time staff in the IT. Perhaps it's possible we should look at, if we're going to spend $76,000 to upgrade that, perhaps maybe it might be cheaper in the long run to possibly look at outsourcing that. And it's no offense to Ms. Hale, but technology, I'll openly admit, I have to go to my children. They hate coming to my house or hearing a phone call from me because they know I've done something on my computer or my phone that they're going to have to fix.
Thank you, Steve. Randy, your thoughts on the website and what might be needed to improve it?
This is something that we're constantly working with in the county. Last year we upgraded the website for obtaining permits, so people can now apply for a building permit online. It's still got some tweaks and they're rolling it out, but the idea is to make it much more user-friendly so citizens that are computer savvy don't have to come to the courthouse, don't have to come down there to get a permit. If you're going to do a roof over a weekend, you can go online, you can fill out a permit. I absolutely agree the county website needs updating. As Mr. Holyfield stated, $73,000 is a lot of money. The company that came and gave the presentation was also one that was going to do the website for Michigan City. Michigan City put theirs on hold, and we had some issues, so that's why we put it on hold at this time. It is absolutely something that's a top priority, and we need to get it fixed because it's imperative that communication is out there to the people that want to see it.
And Jim, your thoughts on the county website and what might be needed to be improved?
Well, this is a technological age, and the website for the county is something that is another source of important information, and it does need to be updated. I think we need to look for the best source of services that we can find in order to do that. People don't use the website right now because it's not necessarily user-friendly and it doesn't have all the information that they're looking for or where to go to get that information. So I agree that it needs to be updated, and we need to find the best source that can do that for us effectively.
Thank you, Jim. Now I'm going to ask that all-important question, beginning with Jim. Why do you believe that you are the best candidate for County Council District Number 2?
Well, like I said earlier, I am a long-term resident of LaPorte County. I love this part of the country. I left it and came back to it for that same reason. I think we have a lot to offer in this area, and I want to be a part of that. I was a superintendent for 23 years in various school districts, and this is not, even though this is my first time in running for a position, it's not my first time in dealing with politicians. I spent many times in the state legislature working with lawmakers and trying to serve my district in the best interest of that district. I have the experience, I have the desire to work. I also, for the county, and I also am retired. And this is my only job. It is not an added job. I don't have 1, 2, or 3 jobs in order to divide my time to. This would be it. And I think my experience speaks for itself as far as budget and other matters are concerned. I think I make the best candidate, the best qualified candidate for this position.
Thank you, Jim. Mandy, tell me why, and tell the rest of us, why you believe that you are the best candidate for County Council District 2.
Thank you. I have the professional experience for public service. As many of you know, with my experience with finance, contract negotiations, mediation, managing multi-million-dollar budgets and capital expenditures, I'm the candidate with the experience. I've proven it in the last 4 years on the county council. Yes, I have other jobs, but as if anybody in this audience knows me, I'm not lacking. I'm at the meetings. I attend more meetings than a lot of people. So I'm out there, I'm very active. Ask my wife how much I'm out there and active. So my experience speaks for itself. I've got proven leadership, committed to the community, and dedicated to progress of LaPorte County. I'm the candidate to move LaPorte County forward while being fiscally responsible.
Thank you, Randy. Now let's turn to County Council District number 4. And Steve, why do you believe that you are the best candidate for that position?
I think I've learned through my business experience operating my farm as a business that you need to make tough decisions. You also have to stay within budget. And also there are things that change on a day-to-day basis that you may not always have to follow that exactly. So you need to be able to make those decisions on a split second. I thrive on having 10 different things going at one time, happening with the weather and my farm and everything else. I'm able to work across the lines. The party letter after the name shouldn't matter to anybody. It's the taxpayers we have to be responsible for. After all, it is their money. And I'm able to make tough decisions. They may not always be the popular decision at the time, but if they need to be made, then you need to make them and do what's in the best interest of the taxpayers' money.
Thank you, Steve. And Mike, your thoughts about why you, in fact, are the best candidate for County Council District 4?
Well, I respect my opponent for his knowledge, but I have a bit more to offer. Some of the things I haven't shared with you, but I did in a previous. I was a town councilman for 8 years. I know about negotiations. I know about making commitment. I only got paid $2,000 a year when I did that. I have proven leadership. I have dealt with more than just one type of business, so I understand all the different types of businesses that it takes to make a community. I've worked with nonprofits. I've worked with profitable organizations, and yes, every single one has a budget. Every single one has a goal to be of service or to sell their product better. I too am willing to communicate. My stretch is not just to talk with the members of the council, which I've been working on. I also too speak to the commissioners. So this way I get to know what the perspective is coming before it even comes up to the council. It is these things, the ability to listen, and with all of this, I ask you for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Well, our time is probably running out, but I'm going to do a quick question, just a yes or no answer to this one, if we could. And the question is, do you support a LaPorte County initiative to conduct a county-wide strategic visioning and planning process to be paid for by a joint public-private collaboration? And we'll begin with you, Mike.
I'd be foolish not to say yes.
And Steve.
Yes.
And Randy.
Yes.
And Jim.
Absolutely, yes.
Gosh, we have unanimity. That's wonderful. Thank you. Next one is going to be a yes or no question as well.
These are easy.
How feasible do you think it is to convert the landfill south of I-94 into a recreation area?
Yes.
Jim?
That's more than a yes answer or no answer. It's been done before in other communities. I think it's very feasible.
Okay. Randy?
I think it's absolutely feasible, but I think it needs to move very cautiously.
Okay. Steve?
I agree also something needs to be looked at for that, but again, as Mr. Novak says, there's a lot more questions than answers if it is taken on by the county.
Mike?
I've been through this when I was in the town council. We were able to take certain parts of the land and work with certain parts of the land. We were able to get a ball field and a soccer field out of it, but we were limited based upon the contaminants that were there. So yes, it's a move forward slowly, but it is a very doable event. Thank you.
With that, I think we now need to turn to the candidates for that concluding statement. So, Mike, would you lead us off, please?
Almost thought we concluded before, but let's go again.
You could be a double whammy, see?
No, it's all about being qualified, being dedicated, being a leader, being willing to listen, being there when it counts. I mean, I was supposed to be somewhere else this evening, but this is where it counts. This is where we need to be. So this is where I am. So I made a last-minute decision to be here, made arrangements for the other things. It's been a great experience to be more involved and listening and being involved at the county council meetings, at the commissioner meetings, and before this, I was doing this at the city level. And so very, very involved there as well. And being able to be outspoken, being able to say what's on my mind, being able to say what I think is right, and try and be fair and listen. And so therefore, with these things, I would appreciate to get your vote on November 6th.
Steve?
I feel I too am very qualified for this office. Like I said, running my own business over the last several years, I've made contacts down to State House in Indianapolis. I've traveled down there a couple different times, spoke with representatives down there as to what local issues are up here and what can be done at our end, because Indiana has a home state rule, so they don't like to get involved unless it's something that they know they need to, but they also want to hear the input from up here. I'm not scared to go down there and talk to them. I'm not scared to listen to people. I do speak my mind. You can ask a lot of people. I've lost a lot of relationships over the year because of that, but I will hold my ground if it's for the best interest of the taxpayer of LaPorte County. Because after all, I'm going to say it again, folks, it is their money and they hold the power over the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Randy, please.
Proven leadership, committed to the community, and dedicated to progress. That's what I'm all about. I'm able to bring together, and this is what I feel as though is a strength of mine, is bringing people together in a bipartisan fashion. Jim Pressel's out there, worked with him extensively this last year down at the State House for some legislation in this community that was passed. So I'm the candidate that has proven experience. I have a proven track record. This isn't something that I just woke up one day and said, hey, you know what, this year I think I'm going to be on the county council, or I'm going to think I'm going to run for office. This is something I've dedicated my adult life to public, working for the public, working for helping the community, the taxpayers, whether it's in Michigan City and the entire county, everywhere. I'm here, I'm proven. I'd appreciate your support to allow me to continue working for the citizens of LaPorte County. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. And Jim, please.
Well, I enjoy the leadership role. I enjoy the decision-making process. I am accountable and have been accountable to the public for 48 years. This is not a new game for me. I have been the voice of the people and represented the people all my professional career. This is something that I've done for a long time, and I know how to do it. And I've been very successful in the past, and these are the kinds of skills that I'd like to bring to the county council. I believe I can do that with success, the same success I had in my professional career. I believe I have the qualifications that are necessary to be the voice of the people. So I'm asking all of you to consider my experience and my background and my dedication to this county and vote for me in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Now, a round of applause for our great county council.